Today, 6 March, is a very important date because it was 45 years ago that there was a major rally led by Jayaprakash Narayan, 6 March 1975, to present the Charter of Demands, which had economic, political and social components, to the Parliament of India. And that was the high point of being face to face between the people who were disenchanted and the government and its supporters who were in absolute command of the state apparatus as well as the institutional system. But it was 45 years ago. We have moved quite far, and today this chapter of our political experience has acquired importance because of certain systemic dimensions of the episode called the Emergency Raj. I have tried to summarize my presentation in an abstract which is circulated for you so that this afternoon becomes an opportunity of deepening the inquiry and making sense of the institutional, systemic and biographical aspects of a phenomena called post-colonial India. As it is, to keep focus and attention for 45 minutes is not an easy job. So I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation so that we move point by point, and towards the end of the, or nearly after 2/3 of the presentation, I've also tried to bring in a third person to give a little more objectivity to my presentation, because as it is important to let you know that I was not an observer. I was a participant in the process which is called the Emergency Raj. And I was at the other end of the story because I was among the victims of the Emergency Raj, but though far away. I was a national scholar who was selected to study abroad for PhD, and after emergency, because of my activities, they cancelled my scholarship, they tried to deport me and made me into a public figure in North American media. Until the emergency was over, I remained without scholarship and remained engaged in a group called Indians for Democracy. But with the distance and with furthering of my own inquiry and growing as a student of political sociology, I do promise to be as critical as possible of the subjective side of the story, that is JP movement and the mobilization called Bihar movement and the phenomena called anti-corruption movement, which all culminated into the call for total revolution. If you look at the situation, there are several very important contributions, analytical contributions and biographical contributions. No book on the history of modern India is without a substantial chapter about emergency period. No book about biography of one of the most distinguished public personalities of our country after independence and one of the most successful and impressive prime ministers of the country, Indira Ji, is without a chapter on emergency. No book about the tallest nation builder after independence, Jayaprakash Narayan, is without a chapter on emergency. But there are other players also. Acharya Vinoba Bhave, the Communist Movement of India, the Socialist Movement of India, particularly Raj Narayan, who was in an intense legal battle, which became ultimately the tipping point Otherwise, the people's movement in which we were all involved had withered away by the end of April, May, with the acceptance of the challenge of Indira Ji to Jayaprakash Narayan that this is no way to solve problems of governance and political management. Elections are the best way to have institutional resolution, and Bihar election must be fought seriously by both of us, you and me. I don't agree with your protest, and you don't agree with my party's process of governance, but we will not go the Gujarat way of dissolving the assembly, calling a premature election, and change the situation. So, if you look at various interpretations, there are people who argue that it was a severe setback in the political evolution of India, which made Indian democracy fairly damaged and wounded, and it will take years and generations to heal, because there will be always a tendency to go the emergency path by rulers who will be in near total command of the situation and who will not like to be disturbed by politics of protest and dissent. A few people, including Indira Ji, argued that it was a bitter pill, not a sweet pill. Certainly a bitter pill, but it was for the cause of the nation. So when democracy and nation are face to face and we have to choose, let us be ready to choose nation and postpone our love for democracy. Then there was also another set of people, particularly coming with bureaucratic background, who said that this was a transition from disruptive dissent because there was too much of democracy. Everywhere protest, everywhere dharna, everywhere roko, roko, roko. Aage badhna hai. And therefore we need discipline for development. Not discipline for its own sake, discipline for development, which is a very legitimate argument. Another set of people argued that this was a paradigm shift beyond bourgeois democracy. This was coming from Marxist paradigm. All kinds of people from CPI to CPML, in between CPM and independent Marxists, they all are rallying around this kind of an interpretation and conclusion. There are some others who are mostly institutionalists or political sociologists who say that this was crisis of institutions of conflict mediation. It was not personal problem with Indira Gandhi. She was what she was. But it did not have a logical relationship. It was the crisis of institutions of conflict management, judiciary, bureaucracy, legislature, which failed the test, and therefore we need some safeguards, and that's what happened after 77. Certain institutional reforms were undertaken in the form of constitutional amendments to make up for the tragedy, as well as a few other things which are still in the pipeline, like police reform, judicial reform, administrative reforms, but this was all underlined during those 21 months of the emergency. And that's where I bring in the claim of political sociologists, because it seems that we have to combine history and biography in the given social context. It's not only biography alone, which is the popular way for modern historians to juxtapose Indira Ji with Jayaprakash Ji, etc., etc. And there are a few others who bring in a few more people, but biographical accent makes us miss the jungle for the trees. Trees are important, but there is also a system, a social setting. What happened with the declaration of internal emergency is not to be repeated here, but quickly, because we all probably know, younger people may not know, and I see half of the audience who were probably not born when emergency was declared in 75. So what happened with the declaration of emergency was suspension of fundamental rights and civil liberties and federal provisions of the Constitution, strict censorship on press, arrest of nearly all opposition leaders from the national level to the local level, which counted around 100,000 people in those times, ban on 26 socio-cultural and political organizations, and which looked like a good collection of right-wing, left-wing. So it was CPI-ML, as well as RSS, Jamaat-e-Islami, and Anand Marg. So it was quite a balancing act, and it was done after 5 days of emergency. So many people think it was an afterthought. Similarly, a 20-point program was announced for people's welfare, so that it looks like a benign act of a benevolent set of rulers who are finding it very difficult to deliver people what the people have been promised in the elections of 71, 72, which was essentially Garibi Hatao. And then concentrating state and party power in hands of Prime Minister, which was the major narrative of the period of emergency, where everywhere had to say that yes, ultimately it has to be decided by the High Command. And High Command meant not Indira Gandhi personally, it was too much to handle, a small group of people this was a group of very intelligent, experienced bureaucrats and politicians in the beginning, but soon it was replaced very smoothly by a group of very non-political people, bureaucratic people, headed by the younger son of Indiraji, Sri Sanjay Gandhi, and ably supported by two brother-in-laws, Sri Yashpal Kapoor and R.K. Dhawan, and they became the ultimate troika of power, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and marginalized nearly everybody from Siddharth Shankar Ray to Inder Gujral to P.N. Haksar to Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, to anybody who counted, including Jagjeevan Ram, Bauguna, etc., etc. Now, Indiraji spoke to the nation twice in 24 hours. First, in the morning of 26 June, where the bottom line was that the president has proclaimed an emergency. This is nothing to panic about. And then next day she thought that I have to say a few more points. So in a long public dialogue, a public lecture, she essentially said that the opposition parties had chalked out a program of countrywide gheraos, agitation, disruption and incitement to industrial workers, police and defense forces in an attempt to paralyze the central government. One of them, which meant Jayaprakash Narayan, went to the extent of saying that armed forces should not carry out orders. This had to be prevented. And this set of arguments, this set of factors underlined by Indiraji was repeated again and again by the ruling party and its supporters, and was registered again and again, rejected again and again, and contradicted again and again. So it is still a debated point that who was right, who was lying, who was not lying. It was more like Yudhishthir saying, Ashwathama hatho narova kunjaro. And that is one tunnel in which if you enter, you need more and more and more material. And luckily, Nehru Memorial is one of the best places because fortunately, private papers of both Indiraji and Jayaprakash ji are here, and many more actors who are associated. And this requires younger generation to go further and deeper. Contrasting the definition of the situation by Indiraji, we had Jayaprakash Narayan's reflection, who was put in jail, and he wrote occasionally, which was later published as Prison Diary, edited by A.B. Shah. And in the first entry, Jayaprakash ji says that my world lies in a shambles all around me. Here was I trying to widen the horizons. Here was I trying to widen the horizons of our democracy. And here am I ending up with the death of democracy. Where have my calculations gone wrong? And see the line. I went wrong in assuming that a prime minister in democracy will use all the normal and abnormal laws to defeat a peaceful democratic movement, but would not destroy democracy itself and substitute for a totalitarian system. Very clinical, precise analysis by this social scientist who was maligned to no end by the regime, such a powerful regime led by Indiraji. But he was not very subjective, and he argued that there was a misunderstanding and under-assessment by me about the extent to which the regime may go to save its skin. There were several causes, but my argument for you is that let us not fix ourselves with 26 June 1975. It was a little longer story. And somewhere from 73, Indiraji started losing grip. It was partly because of the national situation on the economic front and political front, but also partly because of the global situation. So those who are very happy to put everything on the shoulders of Indira Gandhi must be also careful. It was not an absolute mistake of a demoralized, delegitimized person. It was also a contribution of national and global political and economic factors. So first thing which was very important by 1973 was a disenchantment among the people because they had voted Indira ji in 1971 on the platform, वो कहते हैं इंदिरा हटाओ, मैं कहती हूँ गरीबी हटाओ, अब आप ही चुनिए. And it was one-way decision. The so-called Grand Alliance constituted by 4 major parties with eminent freedom fighters and tall leaders from Morarji Desai to Rajgopalachari to Kamaraj to Atal Bihari Vajpayee, they were down in the dumps. It was one-way mandate. But now, where is the delivery? 73. Deterioration in the economic situation, particularly a conjunction of recession, growing unemployment, rampant inflation, scarcity of essential commodities. It was a classical case of failed economy. There was also the international side of the story in terms of price evolution, 4-time increase in the oil prices. And India was, and India is, an oil deficit economy. So our bill for oil supply was 4-fold, and there was no income coming from the internal sources. And then stagflation, stagnation combined with inflation. Indira Gandhi ji also tried to take us back to 1966. I am arguing that let us go back to 73 to look at the roots of emergency Raj. But Indira ji, being more generous about the situation and more, you can say, objective, she says that please look at the history of what we had to face. Severe drought and famine in 1966. This is the year when she became Prime Minister. Political crisis due to split in Congress in 1969. The oldest party of the country was split down the middle, and the official candidate for the presidency was defeated by an independent candidate supported by Indira ji, which led to the expulsion of the Prime Minister by the rest of the party. Indira ji was expelled from Congress party because she violated the collective decision of the party. She was an indisciplined soldier. Then Bangladesh war. It has been not discussed much because many people who want to analyze emergency in binary terms look at Indira versus Jayaprakash, rightist versus leftist, progressive versus reactionary. But there was a major problem, phenomena called Bangladesh issue, where there was a short-term victory for us, that we defeated Pakistan, and Pakistan was broken into two. It changed the grammar of geopolitics of South Asia, but internally the cost of that success was phenomenal, and Indira Gandhi wanted us to look at it. And then series of droughts soon after Bangladesh war. So it was a very painful transition, and management crisis was, the profile of the management challenges was changing from day to day. Then collapse of economic administration. Indira ji had introduced bank nationalization, and from there, that was in 1969, there was a new grammar of economics in India, and this was full of loopholes. And later on, it was a big domain of corruption. They said, Garibi to nahi hati, but the bank officers and the babus and the local netas became quite amir. And then governance paralysis despite legislative majority. This has to do with what Dr. Ravi introduced about Indira ji's personality and politics. Indira ji, being younger to many, many stalwarts of the Congress party, was always overcautious about the second line of leadership. So she was engaged in destabilizing any emerging leader as a state president. It included Bihar also. Bihar had 4 chief ministers in 2 years, between 71 and 74. Kedar Pandey, Abdul Ghafoor, Jagannath Mishra. So there was a kind of governance paralysis. The joke was that there is only one man in the whole Indian cabinet, and that is Indira Gandhi. No other person was getting counted. And finally, corruption in planning, administration in state governments. This was hitting most hard because Indiraji, when she was contrasted with people like Jayaprakash Narayan, appeared to be a bit dirty-looking politician. With others, she was very effective because they were in the race, same way, same methods, and she was more efficient. But when she was pitted against Jayaprakash Narayan and the general angry mob of people with the rest of the political parties, she was having a problem of, I'm very sorry about this slide because it's too small, but it is about different definitions of the situation. I'll quickly read it for you. Jayaprakash Narayan argued, that was in 1973, July, paradoxical though it may sound, the Congress, despite its massive electoral victories of 1971-72, is today little more than a hollow shell. It has no inner strength and substance and is kept going on huge dose of funds, and mark the words, huge dose of funds, and the charisma of its leader, that is Indiraji. Another interpretation was from Indiraji herself. There is a widespread conspiracy of reactionary forces against the progressive measures. Probably partly true, because Indiraji had finished privy purses of the Rajas, so who will be happy when your purse is finished? She had tried to create control over monopolies, so monopoly restriction trade practices. She had also introduced a few new laws to change the compensation principle, which was challenged in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court went in on the side of the property classes, and for which, as he said, 24th and 25th Amendment had to be introduced. So she had this smell of conspiracy. A few Indian historians, there is a popular group of modern Indian history people, they said there was a growing detachment of three major groups from Congress: the middle classes, the rich peasantry, and the capitalists. And this group of modern historians had their grounds very clearly detailed, because there were certain decisions of the new regime led by Indiraji, which was not very happy, which was not a happy regime for the rich peasants, because there was some kind of a levy, compulsory procurement to meet the deficit of essential supplies, rice, paddy, wheat, etc. And this was being registered because you will get more money if you sell it in the open market. Middle classes, there was freeze on the salaries and bonuses. So real wages were going down because of the inflation, and we were finding middle classes feeling unhappy. And the capitalists were alarmed because she was moving rapidly towards the left since 1969, and the capitalist class was not hiding its resentment about Indira Gandhi. But there were other categories of people which has been ignored in this analyzing by this group of historians. But luckily in the detailed presentation, it's a group led by Professor Bipin Chandra with Mridula Mukherjee, Aditya Mukherjee, Suchita Mahajan, and a number of other modern Indian history people. And they've been following this line for last 50 years. There was another interpretation by Communist Party of India, very important. They said that this is fiasco of capitalist path of development. There is conflict inside the Indian bourgeoisie and confrontation between left and democratic forces and the counter-revolutionary forces. Unfortunately, it's too general. A communist can always analyze any crisis in a young democracy of India kind with these terms. You can always say that this is a phenomena, this is a fiasco of capitalist path of development, this is because of the crisis in the bourgeoisie, and the progressive and the reactionary. It is a senseless nirguna bayan. But this was very powerful interpretation of the situation, because it was castigating those who were against the regime. There was also a very interesting observation by L.K. Advani. He was put in jail after the emergency, and he wrote a number of observations, which is published now, scrapbook of a prisoner, in which in one entry he says that political India is divided between two groups today, one led by Indira Gandhi, distrusting the people and relying upon shackled press, parties, parliament and judiciary, and the other led by JP, trusting people and believing with Jefferson, the American philosopher, statesman, that governments degenerate and people are its only safe depositories. Now we go to Indira Gandhi's regime. And there are many ways of going. As you know, Indira Gandhi is a very popular theme for biographers. There are at least 20 thick biographies of Indira Gandhi, and every biography has one or the other very controversial chapter. And a few novels are written, including Salman Rushdie, about which Indira Gandhi herself wrote a defamation, presented a defamation case, and she won it successfully because there were many conjectures about her in very uncharitable terms. But for our purposes, there are at least 7 turning points between her becoming Prime Minister and declaration of internal emergency. 1969, when Indira Ji expelled from Indira Gandhi, and remember, Indira Gandhi was expelled from the party, which had its headquarters for 14 years in her own house in Anand Bhavan. It was a party which was led by her grandfather, Motilal Nehru, who was president of the Congress party 6 times. Her father, Jawaharlalji Nehru, in 1959, she was herself president of the Indian National Congress, and the party expels her. And you can imagine the deep cut which it made to her political personality. Then she introduced 24th and 25th constitutional amendments, which alarmed many people, particularly those who thought of autonomy of judiciary as a sacrosanct requirement of separation of power or unique requirement of Indian democracy. Autonomy of judiciary, legislature and bureaucracy to keep power balanced. So this was an alarming indicator. Then 71-72 was a period of huge success. She gets elected with a lot of people in the parliament. Then she goes further, signs an Indo-USSR treaty, which is an end of an era inaugurated by Jawaharlalji, and she moves decisively away from American camp, which was engaged in Vietnam and Cambodia. And she also signs Shimla Agreement with Pakistan, which humbles Pakistan for the first time since 1947, and victory in state elections. In 1974, that is the beginning of the slide, January, there is a major unexpected movement from a very innocent state like Gujarat. Gujarat students were not known to be militant ever, not even in the freedom struggle, when Gandhiji was leading and Sardar Patel were leading. But Gujarat students were hitting the street against rising cost of food and tuition, etc., etc. And it led it to the dissolution of the assembly. Then there was, this was in January, but after 3 months it was again there was echo effect in Gujarat, in Bihar. Bihari students got together and Patna was put under curfew. They said, Gujarat ki jeet hamari hai, ab Bihar ki bari hai. And soon Jayaprakash Narayan enters into the movement in April, not with the crowd, but his own discipline, Sarvodaya, a few hundred, not taking the populist line, but a very disciplined, ideological line that we have nothing to do with violence. We have many reasons to be angry with the system. System needs to be changed, but not in this kind of chaotic, anarchic, violent, and crazy lumpen way. And then, again, a major thing which never happened before in the history of independent India, railway strike for 22 days, the largest manpower employing system. 22 days, India was on its knees, but there was a brutal control, and the strike was broken, which was again a huge success for Indira Ji, making her look like a woman with substance, a leader with guts. And then the climax was nuclear test of Pokhran. Because there was a theory in India since Chinese debacle that India must go nuclear. That is the only way to secure ourselves from a nuclearized world power game, including China, and people were hesitant. But Indira Ji moved very quickly in that direction also. Then in 1975, this first 6 months was again very tragic because soon, particularly the month of June, was traumatizing for Indira Ji. She was declared disqualified for charges of electoral malpractices. Next day, she was reported to be defeated in Gujarat elections. 24th June, she gets conditional stay. That means she was not having the right to vote. She was a paralyzed prime minister. So the logical conclusion was that you must resign and get a full-time, totally competent man or woman as your replacement. And she did not have a single person trustworthy. She thought of many people, as the details are now out with book of P.N. Dhar, Pupul Jaikar, Bishan Tandon. They were all very close people to her, and they considered every possible man from Jagjeevan Raman Chauhan to D.K. Barua, and she found nobody worth trust, because she thought that once she is out, she will be out forever. And therefore, declaration of emergency on 25th, 26th. Now we look at the other side of this story, the other pole, the alternative vision and the alternative zone of hope, Jayaprakash Narayan. Many people think that Jayaprakash Narayan became disoriented after the death of his lifelong partner and wife, Prabhavati ji. It's true that death of Prabhaji, after battling with cancer for a long time, was very destabilizing for Jayaprakash emotionally. But the quest for alternative in political terms, democratic terms, was much older. He had started talking about it in 1969. So I quickly gave a few dates for your consideration. And at the ultimate conference of Sarvodaya movement in Bihar, Rajgir, when the whole state of Bihar was declared to be Rajyadan, it is now under the hegemony of Sarvodaya. This was the anticlimax, because Vinoba declared his retirement from Ramdan movement, and Jayaprakash found it a bogus declaration. This was also a year of celebration of Gandhi's centenary, 1969. And some of us who were students in those times may remember that 1969 was inaugurated with very tragic incidents of communal violence in Gujarat and many parts of the India. And Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan was visiting India for the first time after independence, and he decided not to go to Rashtrapati Bhavan or Prime Minister's house, go straight to Ahmedabad, which was burning, and the rule was Congress rule. So 1969 was a period, a whole year of introspection of all the Gandhians, including Jayaprakash Narayan. Where are we headed? What are we doing? What were the promises and what is the performance? Incidentally, this year we are talking about it, is 150 years of Gandhi. So not for others, but for many Gandhians, this is again a journey into themselves, their movement, their promises, their way of doing things, and you can see many Gandhians being self-critical and interrogative. And this was much more intense for the Sarvodaya movement, 1969. In 1970, Jayaprakash had given a famous convocation address at Banaras Hindu University, and where the whole convocation address was focused on corruption in politics. And then immediately in Muzaffarpur, Bihar, some of you who may be knowing about geography of Bihar, 1970, Muzaffarpur is north part of Bihar, a seat of consciousness from colonial times. You may remember that Gandhiji went to Champaran, and his stay was, the entry point was Muzaffarpur, LS College, where Kripalani was a lecturer, and Kripalani accommodated him in the warden's hostel, and for that the warden was removed, and of course Kripalani was sacked. But Muzaffarpur was a tower of energy and light since the colonial times. And there was a challenge by Maoists to the Sarvodaya movement. They issued a notice to the local Sarvodaya Mandal Adhyaksh or secretary that you are the biggest barrier between us and the people. Revolution is misguided because of your presence. You better fold your office, close it by such and such date, otherwise we'll kill you. The letter goes to Vinoba. Vinoba has taken Kshetra Sannyas. He passes on to Jayaprakash, who is in Almora for health reasons. But Jayaprakash rushes and meets head-on with the Maoists, and he engages them, and he says, what's your problem? And they say, very objectively, that your work is paperwork, bogus work. And Jayaprakash gets very annoyed. I have spent my life, and people so saintly like Vinoba are our guide, and you are saying such nonsense? So they agreed to look into the details of the situation, and Maoists were challenged by Jayaprakash to supply the details. They gave the details, and then a third group was asked to investigate. And most disappointing results came when Maoists were found to be true. Then Jayaprakash said that now I settle down here. You give me 1 more year to make up for our mistakes. And that was Musahari experiment. This was looking at the grassroots realities of post-colonial nation building, land reform, agricultural change, caste system, gender situation, health, education, energy, commerce. And Jayaprakash writes 2 open letters to the people of India. One is famous, called Face to Face. And he says that we are cultivating violence. It's not Mao or Maoists. It is us, our system, our Thanedar, our Tahsildar, our local Panchayat Mukhiya, our MLA, our MP, our political parties. So Jayaprakash is not obsessed with Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister. He is into his own self-inquiry. And then immediately there is another chapter opening before him. The tragedy of partition of India haunted all freedom fighters, particularly Gandhians. It was one of the failures, so-called within course of Gandhi, that Jinnah prevailed and Gandhi failed. But soon there was the opening of the can of worms called Pakistan in the form of Bangladesh Liberation Movement. And Jayaprakash goes around the world in support of Sheikh Mujib and Bangladesh Mukti Vahini. And that exposes him to the changing perception of India and South Asia in the global community. He comes back, Bangladesh is generally created, and he is elated. There is some happiness around. But then he looks at the internal story of the Sarvodaya movement. In 1972, there is an open... One good thing about Gandhians is that they are always open about their own internal weaknesses. They still live with the style of Gandhi's autobiography. So before you criticize them, they'll tell about their own million problems. So Jayaprakash was one of the leaders of that self-criticism process. And by 1973, there is opening of contradiction of the Sarvodaya movement. On the one hand, there is successful Chipko movement in Uttarakhand, a new agenda on the Gandhian table, the environmental issues, and the failure of Gramdan movement, decline in Gramdan. Because Vinoba is no more on the scene, people are left to themselves, and things are more in paper and less with people. In December 1973, there is a national conference of at Sevagram where Acharya Kripalani is very critical. He is another man who has been underrated and understudied, and I hope that someday somebody will come to Ravi and NMML with a proposal to study in systemic terms the contribution of Acharya Kripalani. He criticizes the Gandhians as partner and friend of Gandhi, one of the oldest Gandhians in the country. And he said that you are all creating a bogus, fraudulent movement in the name of Gandhi. Please close the shops. Do whatever else you can do, but don't talk about Gandhi and Gram Swaraj because you are not moving in that direction. It's only creating illusion. And that hits Jayaprakash and many others. And he, by December, he creates another consultation. There's a magazine called Every Man's. I'll be closing very quickly. I'm coming to the lighter zone very soon with the help of Abu Abraham. A book published by him in 1977 is out of print. He was one of the most powerful cartoonists of his time who was censored again and again, but still he could make a few things. I'll come very quickly. So the logic of this slide is to connect you with Jayaprakash's own methodology and concepts and categories which had very little to do with either communist or Indiraji or central government or state power. He was looking at the dilemma of Lok Niti, Lok Shakti, people's power, people's politics. And so he enters into dialogue with the prevailing mobilizations in 1974. He goes to Gujarat, offers his moral support. Then he enters into the Bihar scene, and with the cautious engagement, the student and youth leaders surrendered themselves to Jayaprakash moral guidance. They promised that we will leave our political parties. They also promised that we will not use violence no matter what. And they also promised that we will be engaged in the process of mobilization for change for at least 1 year, if not more. These were his 3 conditions. And we were privy to the engagements and the processes. And then there was the National Convention of Students and Youth at Delhi. University of Delhi was headed at that time by Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad leader Arun Jaitley. And it was all who's who. After next 20 years of Indian politics were there as young activists engaged in the moral crusade led by Jayaprakash Narayan. And then it was followed by an all-party conference. Jayaprakash was not only looking at youth alone, he was an institutionalist, a social scientist, so he always engaged variety of people, from top lawyers like Justice Tarkunde to the youngest activists like Manish Jani and Lalu Yadav and Sharad Yadav, etc., etc. Then on 5th June, that's where there's a major rally, one of the most successful rally ever in Patna, and he gives a call for total revolution. So April, May, June, 8 months, 8 weeks to mature his mind and then go all out for call for systemic revolution. And then within 20 days, he is arrested in this city under Misa. Soon after his arrest, he lost his kidney, and that description is very movingly written by none other than the in charge of his imprisonment, the IG police Dev Sahaya, who got converted because of his interaction with Jayaprakash and his ways, his civility, his gentleness, and today he is one of the campaigners for Jayaprakash ideas. Now I come to nearly last part of my presentation, then we take you to Abu Abraham for some relief. Pathology of the emergency Raj. What was the most important problem with the emergency Raj? Trains were running on time, the students were in classroom, Babu were at the desk. There was price list of every commodity at every shop. What was wrong? Freedom. Freedom was at discount. And it begins with our favorite theme, legitimacy. There was absolute loss of legitimacy. There was power without legitimacy. So there was no authority, there was power, raw power, but no legitimacy. Second, falsehood, rumor, and lies in the political community. Everybody was lying to everybody, including Indira Gandhi's own advisors. Nobody had the courage to face the truth. And of course, the opposition was taking advantage of these lies. If there was एक नसबंदी तो कहते थे 1000 नसबंदी, 10 घर गिराया तो 10,000 गिरा दिया, सारे दिल्ली के मुसलमानों को भगा दिया, हुआ खाली तुर्कमान गेट में पूरे हिंदुस्तान में फैल गया कि तो. Third was constitutional mutilation and decline of judiciary. This is written again and again in great details. The damage was controlled with a man like Shanti Bhushan as law minister, but the damage was very substantial. Fourth problem with emergency was large-scale detentions without trial. This was never before. Even in the colonial period, except for the Rowlatt Act, na wakil, na appeal, na dalil. ये 1 लाख लोग, including tallest of the tall, Jayaprakash Narayan, ना वकील, ना दलील, ना अपील. तो ऑर्डिनरी लोगों का यही डर रहता था कि उठा के बंद कर देंगे, सड़ जाओगे जेल में. और ये ईरान में हो रहा था, चिली में हो रहा था, अर्जेंटीना में हो रहा था. तो लोगों को एक ग्लोबल फेयर इंडिया को भी एनवेलप करता है. Concentration of power in coterie at PMO. This is beautifully described by none other than the Special Secretary to Indira Ji, Shri P.N. Dhar. Professor P.N. Dhar was the Delhi School of Economics. And he was with her for 6 years, and his book is quite indispensable to see the news. And 2 volumes of Bishan Narayan Tandon, another senior officer who was joint secretary in the PMO. And fortunately for all of us, he kept a detailed diary of those 3 eventful years. Primacy of force of fear. दिमाग ठीक हो जाएगा. एक ग्रुप इमर्ज किया यूथ कांग्रेस नाम से, संगठन आज कहीं नहीं, हवा में भी नहीं है, और हर कोई यूथ कांग्रेस बन गया. बूढ़े बूढ़े लोग यूथ कांग्रेस कर, उनका कनेक्शन था सीधे संजय गांधी से, और सबको डराते थे. और उससे फिर एक सिस्टम ऑफ रैंसम हो गया था. दिल्ली के बाजार में यूथ कांग्रेस का सफेद खादी का कुर्ता पजामा और कुछ गले में स्कार्फ वगैरह, और किसी भी दुकान में घुस जाते थे, कुछ भी मांगते थे. तो दुकानदारों ने कहा बाद में कि हम लोग मनाते थे कि जो मांगे दे दो, लेकिन यहां से टलो. And this was the habit all over, from capital of India to mohalla and kasbas of lower levels. Then growth of extra constitutional power. Not only Sri Sanjay Gandhi, there were many Sanjay Gandhis. There was one Sanjay Gandhi in Prime Minister office, but there were another Sanjay Gandhi with Banshilal. जितने नेता थे उनके सबके लड़के संजय गांधी के प्रोटोटाइप में हो गए थे. And they were all extra constitutional centers of power. बहुत मुश्किल थी. Bureaucrats were under tremendous stress. Marginalization of the legislative system, global stigmatization. हम लोग उस समय काम कर रहे थे नॉर्थ अमेरिका में. जहां जाइए वहां आपको कुछ कहने की जरूरत नहीं थी. नोम चॉम्स्की से लेकर के लॉर्ड फेनर ब्रॉकवे, सब ने पब्लिकली डिसोन किया इंडिया को. वो लोग दे वर लवर्स ऑफ इंडिया बिकॉज इंडियाज एंटी इंपीरियलिस्ट हिस्ट्री and anti-US hegemony politics of Indira Gandhi. And it was all badly bruised and wounded and stigmatized. अब हम आपको वहां ले चलते हैं जहां मुझे ज्यादा बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है. ये अबू अब्राहम बहुत बड़े कार्टूनिस्ट थे. लकीली उनकी बिटिया जानकी अब्राहम यहाँ पर फेलो हैं. और अबू अब्राहम ने किताब तैयार की. उसका नाम था डायनेमिक द गेम्स ऑफ इमरजेंसी. लुक एट द सटायर कि इमरजेंसी में तमाम तरह के खेल चल रहे थे. वो किताब 1977 में छपी थी. अवेलेबल नहीं है. उसकी फोटोकॉपी हमको मिली एंड आई थैंक हर. दिस वाज द जनरल स्टीरियोटाइप ऑफ रिलेशन बिटवीन इंदिरा जी एंड द कांग्रेस पार्टी. ये जो टोपी पहने है ये कांग्रेस पार्टी है. वो जाने को तैयार ही नहीं है. और वो जोन ऑफ आर की तरह से, इंदिरा जी ने कभी अपनी बायोग्राफी में किसी से इंटरव्यू में कहा था कि मैं अपने को जोन ऑफ आर की तरह से इमेजिन करती. क्योंकि वो वानर सेना की लीडर थी. और टू बी कर्टियस टू हर, वो 1 साल जेल में रही, जिससे उनकी शादी भी टल गई उस पूरे मूवमेंट में. तो शी वॉज वन ऑफ द एडोलेसेंट लीडर्स ऑफ द नेशनल मूवमेंट. और वो जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनी तो वो खींच के ला रही है पार्टी को. पार्टी अड़ियल टट्टू की तरह से रुकी हुई है. सेकेंड इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. हमने सब में ऊपर ये अर्निका जी की मदद से ये बना है. 11 अगस्त 1973 को ये कार्टून आया है, मच बिफोर इमरजेंसी, मच बिफोर जेपी एंड इंदिरा कोलाइडिंग, एंड देयर इज अ डिक्लाइन ऑफ हर ग्राफ ऑफ पॉपुलैरिटी. तो वो कहती हैं कि इट्स अ वर्ल्ड वाइड फिनोमिना. व्हाट अबाउट निक्सन, हीथ, माओ, किंग ऑफ अफगानिस्तान. इंदिरा जी का ये बहुत शौक था कि जब भी उनसे कोई क्रिटिसिज्म की बात होती थी तो ये तो ग्लोबल फिनोमिना. प्राइस राइज ग्लोबल फिनोमिना, करप्शन ग्लोबल फिनोमिना, नेपोटिज्म ग्लोबल फिनोमिना. तो वो अपने को हमेशा उस एक दूसरे क्लास में रखती थी. लेकिन दूसरी साइड भी स्टोरी की अच्छी नहीं थी. मैं तो उस समय एक्टिविस्ट था तो मैं अपने को कैसे कहूं. लेकिन अबू अब्राहम ने हमारी तस्वीर खींच दिया. ये एक लफंगा लड़का है, हाथ में उसने केरोसिन ले रखा है, डंडा ले रखा है, दाढ़ी बड़ी हुई है, बाल कटाने की फुर्सत नहीं है. उसके पूज्य पिताजी पूछ रहे हैं, विच ऑफ द पीपुल्स राइट्स एंड डिमांड्स आर यू असर्टिंग एक्स्ट्रा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली टुडेज सन. क्योंकि माओइज्म से लेकर के स्टूडेंट एक्टिविज्म तक सब जगह लॉ वॉज एट ए डिस्काउंट एंड एट ए टॉस. दस ट्रांसपेरेंसी. और ये जयप्रकाश जी का कंफ्यूजन भी अबू स्पेयर नहीं करते. जयप्रकाश जी बात कर रहे हैं, तारीख है 15 जून 1974. इमरजेंसी लगी है 26 जून 1974, साल भर पहले की बात है. बाबा से ये मिल रहे हैं और वो कह रहे हैं we shall soon have a democracy-less party. I mean a party-less democracy. जयप्रकाश का एक पेट थीम था पार्टी-लेस डेमोक्रेसी. और हम लोगों को लगता था कि इट इज थ्रोइंग द बेबी विद द बाथ वाटर. बच्चा गंदा हो गया है, मैला हो गया, उसको धोकर ठीक ठाक करो. जयप्रकाश जी ने बच्चे को ही कहा कि ये काम का नहीं है पार्टी-लेस डेमोक्रेसी. एंड इट वाज ऑलवेज मेड a point of criticism about his so-called woolly ideology. ये इंदिरा जी की तस्वीर. ये 3 चीफ मिनिस्टर हैं, बहुगुणा यूपी, सतपति उड़ीसा, सिद्धार्थ शंकर रे बंगाल. और जिस तरह से वो नचाती थी अपने चीफ मिनिस्टर्स को, उसको अबू अब्राहम ने कैप्चर किया है कि कैसे वो अपने नाक पर खेल होता है ना, मदारी करता है, नाक पर बॉल रखे 1, 2, 3 बचाने की कोशिश करता है. इट वॉज ये भी बहुत सुंदर. ये है 18 जुलाई 75 इमरजेंसी के बाद का कैसे निकल आया. और ये 2 नेताजी हैं, मोटू पतलू, और ये बैनर लेके घूम रहे, सेफ डेमोक्रेसी. उसके पीछे लिखा हुआ है सेंसर के ऑर्डर्स. और उन्होंने लिखा है, आई हैव डिसाइडेड दैट स्पीच इज सिल्वर. वो कहते थे साइलेंस इज गोल्डन, स्पीच इज सिल्वर. ये है रियलिटी अकॉर्डिंग टू अबूज. ये बात है 26 अक्टूबर. इमरजेंसी के 4 महीने बाद, जून में, जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर, अक्टूबर, so-called 20-point program to emancipate people, empower people. How people were receiving it. उनको लगता था कि ये कांटों का बिस्तरा है, शूल सैया है, इससे हम लोगों की जान छूटे तो अच्छा है. फिर ये बात है 18 नवंबर 75 और 26 नवंबर 75। ऑन वीकेंड्स ऑलवेज फील रूरल इंडिया। उसमें दबाव चला कि गांव की तरफ चलो, गांव की तरफ चलो। तो जितने ये नेता लोग थे दिल्ली, लखनऊ, पटना, भोपाल वाले, वो कहते थे ऑन द वीकेंड वी फील रूरल ओरिएंट। दूसरा कार्टून है विच वे इज इट, विल द 20 पॉइंट प्लान हेल्प एंटी फासिज्म और एंटी फासिज्म हेल्प द 20 पॉइंट प्लान। तो दोनों एक कैट एंड माउस का गेम चल रहा था, सांप छछूंदर। जयप्रकाश फासिस्ट है, उसको रोकने के लिए 20 पॉइंट प्रोग्राम, या 20 पॉइंट प्रोग्राम जरूरी है जिससे कि फासिज्म रुक जाए। और न उगलते बनता था न निगलते बनता था, क्योंकि न फासिज्म की बात सही थी न 20 पॉइंट प्रोग्राम की बात सही थी। ये एक और भी बहुत बहुत पावरफुल, वन ऑफ द बेस्ट आई हैव एवर सीन। कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी बिल्कुल लॉयल सोल्जर की तरह से अपने 5 लाख वर्कर्स और मेंबर्स के साथ इंदिरा जी के साथ 74 से खड़ी थी। लेकिन जब जयप्रकाश बंद हो गए, अटल बिहारी बंद हो गए, जॉर्ज बंद हो गए वगैरह वगैरह, तब क्या हुआ? एब्सोल्यूट पावर था। तो कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी का झगड़ा फिर हो गया द न्यू सेंटर ऑफ पावर संजय गांधी से। उन्होंने इंटरव्यू दिया उमा वासुदेव को सर्च में और कहा कि कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी के नेताओं से ज्यादा करप्ट और उनसे ज्यादा धनी आपको लोग नहीं मिलेंगे। तो आपने देखा ये एक कुत्ता है जिसके पीछ में बच्चे ने पटाखा बांध दिया, दिवाली के समय बच्चे बांधते हैं। और उन्होंने कहा वेल बॉयज विल बी बॉयज। फिर इंदिरा जी बहुत परेशान हुई, डैमेज कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश की, लेकिन रॉयटर में छप गया। देश के और दुनिया के 500 अखबारों में संजय जी का इंटरव्यू छपा। और कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी ने कहा गुनाह बेलज्जत, यही आपने हमको एहसान का बदला दिया, ऐसी एहसान फरामोशी। लेकिन बात बनी नहीं। फिर ये दूसरा हुआ लॉन्ग लिव द 25 पॉइंट प्रोग्राम। अब कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी वाले करें क्या, न उगलते बने न निगलते बने। 20 पॉइंट प्रोग्राम तो इंदिरा जी का था, उसके बाद 5 पॉइंट प्रोग्राम संजय जी ने भी लगा दिया। उसमें सबसे बड़ा प्रोग्राम था स्लम क्लियरेंस और नसबंदी, और स्कूल टीचर से लेकर के दफ्तर के बाबू का कोटा बांधा गया, जिसने इनके लिए पानीपत के युद्ध जैसी हालत पैदा कर दी। ऑर्डिनरी लोगों को इमरजेंसी से कुछ लेना देना नहीं था। डेमोक्रेसी इज अ फार फार रिमूव्ड आइडिया। रोज की जिंदगी का सवाल था। उनकी सैलरी रुक रही थी, बोनस रुक रहा था, पनिशमेंट हो रहा था। तो ये कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी का है, ये राजेश्वर राव जी हैं और ये भीष्म पितामह की तरह कांटे की सेज पर सोए हुए हैं। लॉन्ग लिव द 25 प्रोग्राम, क्योंकि और कुछ कर नहीं सकते थे। दूसरी बात थी कि अपोजिशन बहुत कंसोलिडेटेड था, बड़ा यूनाइटेड था। उसकी तस्वीर भी खिंचा है कि ये सब नेता लोग हैं, सबके कपड़े उतरे हुए हैं, सब हमाम में नंगे हैं, और उन्हें टाइटल दिया ऑल ड्रेस्ड अप एंड नो वेयर टू गो। क्या मुंह दिखाएंगे जनता को? आपने क्या नया किया है, क्या सीखा है आपने अपनी गलतियों से? कुछ नहीं सीखा है। तो ये पीलू मोदी, अशोक मेहता, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी, करुणानिधि वगैरह वगैरह। नियरली लास्ट ये है 20 मार्च 1977, जिस दिन रिजल्ट आया। और उस दिन ये पॉलिटिकल क्लास कह रहा है, इनको मेडल लगा रहा है वोटर को, फॉर योर फियरलेसनेस, फेयरनेस, डिवोशन टू फ्रीडम एंड जस्टिस, फॉर योर डिग्निटी। इस दिन से फिर इंडियन वोटर की इमेज फिर बदल गई कि ये बड़े सूझबूझ वाले लोग हैं, अनपढ़ होंगे, गरीब होंगे, दरिद्र होंगे, लेकिन। और आखिरी जो फिर जयप्रकाश जी को भी एक थोड़ा सा लेफ्ट हैंडेड कॉम्प्लीमेंट है। जयप्रकाश जी से जनता कह रही है, हैज माई रिवोल्यूशन, 22 मार्च, हैज माई रिवोल्यूशन बीन एज टोटल एज यू विश्ड इट टू बी। आपने कहा था संपूर्ण क्रांति करना है, तो ये जो हम लोगों ने इंदिरा जी को 71 में जबरदस्त वोट से जिताया और 77 में उनकी खटिया खड़ी बिस्तरा गोल कर दिया, तो जो हमने जो रिवोल्यूशन किया आपको पसंद आया कि नहीं आया? दिस इज वेरी important way of looking at reality, getting from the high ivory tower of academia to ordinary media people. अब कंक्लूजन 2 है, फिर मैं चाहूंगा कि आपकी बातचीत शुरू हो। पहली बात तो ये स्पेंसर का स्टेटमेंट है, जो इलेक्शन, वोट, डेमोक्रेसी और फ्रीडम से जुड़ा हुआ है, और ये कहीं कहीं आज भी रेजोनेंस करता है। क्या कहा स्पेंसर ने? इफ मेन use their liberty in such a way to surrender their liberty, are they therefore any the less slave? If people by a plebiscite elect a man to be despot over them, do they remain free because the despotism was of their own making? अपने पैर खुद कुल्हाड़ी मार लिया. And the last line is, or the coercive edict issued by him, the despot, to be regarded as legitimate because they are the ultimate outcome of their own votes. चूंकि हमारे वोट से आपको ताकत मिली और आपने ये हुक्म जारी कर दिया तो लेजिटिमेट हो गया क्या? और स्पेंसर कहते हैं नहीं, कभी नहीं. और इसी बात को जेफरसन ने भी कहा है, जो पहले मैंने आपको अडवाणी जी के रेफरेंस से किया था. और नाउ लास्ट 7 कंक्लूजन्स. व्हाई इमरजेंसी? मैं जब आया था तो आते ही मुझे डायरेक्टर साहब ने, पता नहीं रवि उस दिन थे कि नहीं, शक्ति भाई ने कहा ये बहुत आपने ऐसा टॉपिक लिया है, इसमें तो बहुत काम हो चुका है. तो हमने कहा कि इसमें पॉलिटिकल सोशियोलॉजिस्ट ने काम करने की हिम्मत नहीं किया है, हिस्टोरियन ने किया है, जर्नलिस्ट ने किया है, पॉलिटिशियन ने, जरा हमको भी चांस दीजिए. क्यों? अब मैं साल भर के बाद कह सकता हूं, वाया डॉक्टर रवि मिश्रा हु हैज बीन वेरी हेल्पफुल थ्रू आउट दीज मंथ्स हियर, to Shakti Sinha ji and the people who offered me this fellowship, that there are 7 points which make the emergency episode, emergency Raj, relevant forever as a source of concern. पहली बात तो कि there is centrality of the institutions of mediation through separating parts of legislature, bureaucracy and judiciary. ये जो mediation mechanism है पावर का डेमोक्रेसी में, वो बहुत वाइब्रेंट और अलाइव होना चाहिए. और उसका एक मेथड है द जुडिशियस सेपरेशन ऑफ द 3 विंग्स, इंटरकनेक्टिविटी विद एनफ ऑफ सेपरेशन. वो खत्म हो गया था इंदिरा जी के समय में, 69 से 75 आते आते खत्म हो गया था. और इसलिए वो हेल्पलेस थी. वो कृष्णमूर्ति से मिली, वो विनोबा से मिली, वो माता आनंदमयी से मिली, किससे नहीं मिली? रास्ता बताओ. जो रास्ता था उन्होंने खुद ही बंद कर दिया था. दूसरा, सुप्रीमेसी ऑफ लेजिटिमेसी एंड लेजिटिमेशन सिस्टम. इट इज नॉट द पीपल हु आर लेजिटिमाइज्ड थ्रू इलेक्शंस, बट इट इज द सिस्टम. दैट सिस्टम शुड नॉट बी फिडल्ड विद, क्योंकि उससे आपका इकबाल बनता है, आपका ट्रस्ट होता है. जो भी जीत जाए, फेयर एंड फ्री इलेक्शन एंड अनटेंटेड सिस्टम ऑफ मल्टी पार्टी पॉलिटिकल कॉम्पिटिशन, ये पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी की लाइफ लाइन है. बाकी सब विंडो ड्रेसिंग है. तीसरा, एंड दैट इज अबाउट द मूवमेंट पीपल. वी आर मूवमेंट पीपल, वी आर एक्टिविस्ट. हफ्ता 10 दिन जंतर मंतर जाने में गैप हो जाता है तो तबीयत खराब होने लगती है कि कुछ हुआ ही, कोई मुद्दा ही नहीं मिला कि चल के जंतर मंतर बैठा जाए. बट देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम देयर. प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ पीपल्स पावर इन पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम, रिप्रेजेंटेशन वर्सेज पार्टिसिपेशन. देयर हैज टू बी एन इंस्टीट्यूशनल सिस्टम to connect between the ordinary people and their representatives. As long as there is representative democracy, there has to be a self-imposed restriction on people's mobilization, on collective action. अगर वो restriction खत्म हो गया, तो representation और participation में हमेशा representation का पड़ला भारी रहेगा. आप कौन हैं? What is your claim to legitimacy? इसलिए movement के लोगों को भी इसको ध्यान से देखना चाहिए. और अभी हाल में जो अन्ना मूवमेंट हुआ है, और भी मूवमेंट चल रहे हैं, अभी सिटीजनशिप वाला मूवमेंट चल रहा है, शाहीन बाग वगैरह जैसा, वहां देखना पड़े. चौथा है लिमिट्स ऑफ करिश्मेटिक अथॉरिटी. ये मैक्स वेबर ने बराबर हम लोगों को बताया सोशियोलॉजी में, हिस्ट्री में. करिश्मेटिक अथॉरिटी होती है, इसमें कोई शक नहीं है. लेकिन अगर करिश्मेटिक अथॉरिटी को हेजमनी का इल्यूजन हो जाए तो वो सुसाइडल. There is a limit because there has to be routinization of charisma. It has to be transmitted to the institutions, particularly organizations. इंदिरा जी के साथ ये गड़बड़ हुई और अक्सर हो जाता है. देश का नेता, क्या वो नारा लगता है, जब तक सूरज चांद रहेगा नेताजी का नाम रहेगा. सूरज डूबे उसके पहले नेताजी डूब जाते हैं. अगले दिन सुबह दूसरे के साथ नारा लगता है, जब तक सूरज चांद रहेगा आपका नाम रहेगा. हर 5 साल में सूरज चांद डूबता है, उगता है. करिश्मा आपका बिल्कुल सही है. यू आर राइट एट योर point of arrogance, but there is a limit. You are not hegemonic. You are only a better claimant for the legitimacy. आखिरी 3 बातें हैं. Failures of governance through force of fear instead of rule of law. ये भी दिखाई पड़ना चाहिए. Rule of law clumsy लगता है, तारीख पर तारीख, लेकिन rule of law है भाई. Force of fear तो एक उसकी आउटर लिमिट है. जब आपका डर खत्म हो गया, करो जो करना है, मार दोगे, खत्म बात. लॉ का ऐसा नहीं है. लॉ हैज सोशल सैंक्शन. It has institutional mechanisms. तो जो लोग अक्सर टेम्प्टेड होते हैं फोर्स ऑफ फियर के लिए, इसमें ज्यादा ताकत है, इसमें ज्यादा असर है. Including the radicals, my Maoist friends. There is a fear. They are separatist politicians, etc., etc. आखिरी दो बात है, pathology of controlling the press. If you control the press, वो मामूली जर्नलिस्ट की तो कलम आपने बंद कर दी, चला गया बेचारा, कुछ और करने लगा, ठेला लगा लिया उसने मूंगफली. लेकिन you enter the post-truth society. Journalist is the watchman of truth. And truth is essence of civility. जब आप पोस्ट ट्रूथ सोसाइटी में एंटर करेंगे तो फिर तो वो जंगल राज हो जाएगा. और ये डोनाल्ड ट्रंप से लेकर के जिसको भी ये शौक है कि मीडिया वालों को घुटने पर हम रगड़ देंगे, बंद कर देंगे. 250 से ज्यादा जर्नलिस्ट इमरजेंसी में गिरफ्तार किए गए. और अडवाणी जी ने कहा था कि उन्होंने तो कहा था झुक जाओ, तुम तो रेंगने लगे. They asked you to bend and you started crawling. आखिरी बात है जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट लेसन है इमरजेंसी का, टू मेक सेंस ऑफ द इमरजेंसी, इनविजिबिलिटी ऑफ सॉवरेंटी ऑफ द सिटीजन. ये जो रूसों के जमाने से चल रहा है सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का आइडिया, इसकी विजिबिलिटी बहुत कम है. लेकिन आप सॉवरेंटी ऑफ सिटीजन को अंडर एस्टिमेट करिए और एज अ पावर प्लेयर अपने लिए गड्ढा खोद लीजिए. वो जो आखिरी आदमी का टेस्टमेंट है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, जो गांधी जी ने भी कहा कि जब कुछ सोचो तो देखो कि उस आखिरी आदमी या औरत को इससे लाभ होगा कि नहीं होगा. तो ये जो इनविजिबिलिटी ऑफ सॉवरेंटी ऑफ द सिटीजन है, इज नॉट ओनली ए डॉक्ट्रिन, इज नॉट अ फिक्शन, इज ग्रोइंग सब्सटैंशियली with the advancement of the idea of freedom and justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for this brilliant, thought-provoking lecture. As always, we are now open to questions and brief comments. Yes, sir, go ahead. Please take the mic.